Right, here we go. Right. My first article is from the Independent, and this was the article on Friday the 30th of October. And basically what I want to talk about tonight is the fact that equality is a multifaceted and it's such a large topic, so I would like to touch on equality in the workplace and how that relates to women's versus men's pay and how equality has been manipulated to break up the family unit. Work pay, in my eyes, if a woman can perform her work tasks with competency and efficiency, they must be treated with equality to make employee performing the same task, the male employee that's performing the same task. So that to me makes sense. If a woman can do the job and do it proficiently, she should be paid the same wage no matter what. But say this was used as a factor and still is being used as a factor to try to create a rift between male and female. And they keep stoking this male-female rift up to create trouble in families, etc. It's the old divide and rule, ancient tactic of trying to bring down different empires, etc. We all know that during the First World War, but mainly during the Second World War, the effort, the women, they've done a fantastically kept the war supply machine running at full tilt. That shows the ability of the woman. And let's not forget the woman's land army that kept air production a full food production with the availability of the raw resources. This was used to get women out of the house to work under equality in incremental steps to split up the family unit. And another part of the equality I want to touch on is the sexual equality, but I will go into this after I've read this article. Before I get any ladies screaming and saying, why is he reading this? Do wait to the end, because it is a balanced report, but it starts off, even I thought, what the heck is this guy saying? So we'll start off with the Independence article. Right, your silly female brain is the reason why you're getting paid less than men. This completely explains why female curators keep coming up with ideas like, let's fill the whole room with mirror balls and glittery dolls' houses, while their male counterparts look on sympathetically and steer them towards the colouring in section. Another day, another reporter asking whether you have a male brain or a female brain. And this time it's our beloved Daily Mail. A study found that those with a so-called male brain have higher salaries than those with a female brain, apparently, which almost sounds like men earn more than women. But don't be so silly. It's not because of gender discrimination that most women earn substantially less than their male counterparts. It's because of their brains. So what distinguishes a female brain from a male brain? I hear you cry. I've heard it's sugar and spice and all things nice. But God damn it, I want the proof. Well, never fear, because the newspaper in question has offered a handy information box to let you know how you can distinguish feminine grey matter from masculine. Being a man is all about answering honestly when asked. Does my bum look big in this? According to the article's wisdom, which makes sense because of all the women I know are insufferable psychopaths. Hi, Mum. No doubt there is some serious science behind the original story, but the reporting of it has gone seriously awry. You also notice grammatical errors. When you've got a male brain, which explains why I keep trying to construct conjugate sentences and then get distracted by my reflection in the computer screen. And where men's brains are all about abilities and preferences, female brains are all about overlooking information and generally behaving with childlike idiocy. The male brain attributes are couched in terms of ability, honesty and knowledge. Meanwhile, 3 out of 5 of the attributes listed for the female brains lack interest in the technical details of a new gadget, have little interest in the dates of key historical events, and my personal favourite, the delightfully passive-aggressive focus on the beauty of painting rather than the artist's technique, concern and deficit of some kind. Those female brains that just want to stare at the most colourful paintings in the gallery, like toddlers delighted by the sparkly parts of a new toy, must be the real reason women end up going home with lower salaries. This completely explains why female curators keep coming up with ideas like, let's fill the whole room with mirror balls and glittery dolls houses, while their male counterparts look on sympathetically, pat them on the shoulder and steer them towards the colouring in section before they start taking down the Lowrys and replacing them with images from the Jimmy Q catalogue. Remember that Liechtenstein exhibition curated by Bonnie Clearwater, for instance? Horrendous. Really, when those with female brains can't appreciate artistic techniques, technological gadgetry, or even remember when World War II happened, it would just be irresponsible as a society to pay them for whatsoever sweet but fluffy schemes they come up with. For God's sake, these women can't even answer honestly when presented with a perfectly straightforward question about bottoms. Some men too, of course. The inferior kind who won't be allowed to sit at the grown-ups table after dinner either. The grown-ups table has to be reserved for the things like political discussions, which explains why so few MPs are women. As more and more women insist on swamping Parliament with their pretty concerns, with their petty concerns, however, it's important that men bite back. That's why I'm totally behind Conservative MP Philip Davies, who recently brought up in Parliament committee the travesty of a lack of International Men's Day celebrations, considering Parliament currently has a slot for women and equalities questions time. He explained, it seems only fair. Labour MP Jess Phillips, sitting on the backbench committee that allocates debate times, replied to his request, as the only woman on this committee, it seems like every day to me is International Men's Day. Oh, Jess, did no one tell you about the male brain and the female brain? If we don't start celebrating the sensible male-brained cohort now, they'll probably all leave the country, leaving us with a population who can't even turn on their iPhones or explain to the next generation about how to use a paintbrush. That's why we can't tax the rich either, I gather. But then they never don't ask me. It's not like I'm equipped to deal with technicalities. Incidentally, a big data study has come out today elsewhere that debunks the idea that there are brain differences in men and women. No need to thank me. Well, that was a report from the Independent, and the big data study has come out today. That is my next article, which I'm going to go on to. It's from Eureka Alert, and it's about male and female brain differences, as it was the follow-up on the last section. Big data says not so much. Right, a research study at the Rosalind Franklin University of Medicine and Science has debunked the widely held belief that the hippocampus, a crucial part of the brain that consolidates new memories and helps connect emotions to the senses, is larger in females than in males. Lisa Elliott, PhD Associate Professor of Neuroscience at the University's Medical School, headed a team of students in a meta-analysis of structural MRI volumes that found no significant difference in the hippocampal size between men and women. Meta-analysis is a statistical technique that allows researchers to combine the findings from many independent studies into a comprehensive review. The team examined findings from 76 published papers involving more than 6,000 healthy individuals. Sex differences in the brain are irresistible to those looking to explain stereotypic differences between men and women, said Dr. Elliott. They often make a big splash in spite of being based on small samples, but as we explore multiple data sets and are able to coalesce very large samples of male and females, we find these differences often disappear or are trivial. Hippocampi are located on both sides of the brain under the cerebral cortex. The team's findings challenged a common claim that the disproportionately larger hippocampus explains females' tendency towards greater emotional expressiveness, stronger interpersonal skills, and better verbal memory. Many people believe there is such a thing as a male brain and a female brain. Dr. Elliott said, but when you look behind the popularized studies at collections of all the data, you often find that the differences are minimal. The study appears in the journal Neuroimage. Meta-analysis by other investigators have also disproved other purported sex differences in the brain. Dr. Elliott noted there is no difference in the size of the corpus callosum, white matter, that allows the two sides of the brain to communicate. Nor do men and women differ in a way their left and right hemispheres process language. So basically there is no difference, as I've said all along. You get your different abilities in male and female, more or less on an average basis to equal to each other. So there is barely any difference whatsoever. And we've been steered in the direction that there's such a big difference to cause the angst between male and female. and to cause the divide and rule. But anyway, I will now go on to sex equality, which was driven by Alfred Kinsey, who was best known for his book he authored called Sexual Behaviour in the Human Male. That was in 1948, and he also brought out sexual behaviour in the female in 1953. They was also known as the Kinsey Reports, and he also compiled a scale of sexual behaviour called the Kinsey Scale. That was the research into human sexuality, whose values influence social and cultural in the United States, which spread internationally at light speed, well, let's say rapidly. That introduced movements such as flower power and the feminist movement, the incremental small space stepping stones, as most of his work was unsavoury, inaccurate, embellished results, for using equality as a vehicle for social engineering and decisive divide and rule. There was a primer for society using cigarette company, the Lucky Strike, who employed Edward Bernays. Edward Bernays was a propagandist. He was the top. He was like the father of propaganda. He was also the nephew of Sigmund Freud, the famous psychiatrist. Anyway, he devised a system that he could advertise the Lucky Strike cigarette brand, drawing women in from the women movement side. So he used two different aspects for what he wanted to do, and that was to start the women saying, we've got our rights and we want the same rights as what the males got. But the point is, what I'm trying to make is, they gave the rights to the ladies, but they've left behind the male, and the male seems to be lacking in his rights. There is no international day for the male, so why not? So where's the equality in that? Anyway, the divide and rule, as I was saying, and it was prime for society using the cigarette company Lucky Strike and the women's rights movement that evolved out of the suffragettes, which came over from France originally. And then in 1908, 15,000 women and men, I add, marched through New York, which was to push for the recognition of the women's rights movement on the March the 19th of 1911. Sorry about this, I've missed out. The official international rights, they got the recognition, and they got the recognition in Copenhagen, Austria, Denmark, Germany, Switzerland. More than 1 million women and men attended the international women's demonstration rallies, campaigning for women's rights to work. And what socials spurs the First and Second World War? So, hello? Did you want to intersect there, PJ?
No, sorry, Paul, it's me. I've just got in the room. Do carry on. I thought I was on mute.
I can't say much, guys. My microphone's played up tonight, apparently, so...
Oh, welcome, Staff. Thank you for coming in, and you managed to get in, and you're coming at a crucial time actually, because I'm really skirting over the equal rights, because it's so involved and so many different facets to it. And what I'm covering is the equal rights was used as a vehicle for social engineering.
All right, yeah, I'm with you. Yeah.
At the moment, I'm at Edward Bernays. I've covered Kinsey with his sexual revolution, which actually led in to the flower power movement and what have you. But I've not gone deep into the flower power movement because I'm not that much upon it, because during the flower power movement I was in the Royal Navy. So, and I know you know quite a bit about the flower power, so yes, it'd be good to get your opinion on what I have to say.
Yeah, no problem, Paul. I think maybe the hippie movement is what you're referring to.
Yeah. Anyway, the First and Second World War was a spur, yeah, in the manipulation of social engineering using equality.
Yeah.
As a major catalyst to achieve the chaos. So through divide and rule for their order ab chaos, which means order out of chaos, which means they subvert it, collapse it, so they can rebuild it as they require it to be. So you come in just at the right time there, but I do have another article to go on to,
Yeah, carry on.
which is an article from Accenture, and it's about International Women's Day, and you was not in it at that moment. But I've already said, why is there not a Males International Day? If it's equal rights, why is there a Women's International Day and no Male International Day? Well, I can't see equality in that somehow. But anyway, first of all, this article has a small couple of minutes video, so I will play this for you and you can listen into this. I believe it might need refreshing somehow because it's not going. So just bear with me, please. Right, let's try again. Aha, we have success on a plate.
March the 8th is Women's Day in Russia. Many men wake up early and go out to buy flowers, while their beloved ladies are still sleeping. It's traditional for men to give flowers, not just to their wives, but also to their daughters, mothers, and grandmothers. March the 8th is an official national holiday. It's a day when women receive more compliments than even on their birthdays. Working women in Europe have marked this day since the early 20th century to highlight their solidarity in the fight for equal economical and political rights with men. The Soviet Union followed the example of other countries and also began to celebrate women's contribution to society. So International Women's Day started in the Soviet Union in 1917 in order to mobilize women for the building of socialism. This is significant because the data embrace the changing female role in society. One can still see images of the ideal Soviet woman on buildings in Moscow, built during the time of Joseph Stalin, and also on old postcards. International Women's Day became an all-nation celebration in the Soviet Union.
Now, if you notice, she actually said about the change being used for the change in society. That is the social engineering. while you was not in staff, I also mentioned about the First and the Second World War and how that was a vehicle for social change and how it spurred on the equal rights to progress that. But I will read this article now. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's see what we can do. Right, a global hub for sharing International Women's Day's news, events and resources about the International Women's Day, which is on the 8th of March internationally. International Women's Day has been observed since the early 1900s, a time of great expansion and turbulence in the industrialised world that saw booming population growth and the rise of radical ideologies. In 1908, great unrest and critical debate was occurring amongst women. Women's oppression and inequality was spurring women to become more vocal and active in campaigning for change. Then in 1908, 15,000 women marched through New York City demanding shorter hours and better pay and voting rights. In 1909, in accordance with a declaration by the Socialist Party of America, the first National Women's Day, abbreviated NWD, was observed across the United States on the 28th of February. Women continue to celebrate NWD on the last Sunday of February until 1913. 1910, and we've jumped a considerable amount. There we go. 1913 to 1914. On the eve of World War I, campaigning for peace, Russian women observed the first International Women's Day on the last Sunday of February 1913. In 1913, following discussions, International Women's Day was transferred to the 8th of March, and this day has remained the global day for International Women's Day ever since. In 1914, further women across Europe held rallies to campaign against the war and to express women's solidarity. In 1917, on the last Sunday of February, Russian women began a strike for bread and peace in response to the death of over 2 million Russian soldiers in war. Opposed by political leaders, the women continued to strike until 4 days later the Tsar was forced to abdicate and the provisional government granted women the right to vote. The date of the women's strike commenced was Sunday the 23rd of February on the Julian calendar, then in use in Russia. This day on the Georgian calendar, Gregorian calendar, in use elsewhere, was the 8th of March. In 1918 to 1999, since its birth in the socialist movement, International Women's Day has grown to become a global day of recognition and celebration across developed and developing countries alike. For decades, International Women's Day has grown from strength to strength annually. For many years, the United Nations has held an annual IWD, International Women's Day, conference to coordinate international efforts for women's rights and participation in social, political and economic processes. In 1975 was decided as the International Women's Year by the United Nations. Women's organisations and governments around the world have also observed IWD annually on the 8th of March by holding large-scale events that honour women's advancement and while diligently reminding of its continued vigilance and action required to ensure that women's equality is gained and maintained in all aspects of life. In the year 2000 and beyond, IWD is now an official holiday in Afghanistan, America, Azerbaijan, Belarus, Burkina Faso, Cambodia, China, in China for women only, Cuba, Georgia, Guinea-Bissau, Eritrea, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, tongue twisters, here we go, Laos, Madagascar for women only again, Moldova, Mongolia, Montenegro, Nepal for women yet again only, Russia, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Uganda, Ukraine, Uzbekistan, Vietnam and Zambia. The tradition sees men honouring their mothers, wives, girlfriends, colleagues, etc. with flowers and small gifts. In some countries, IWD has the equivalent status of Mother's Day, where children give small presents to their mothers and grandmothers. The new millennium has witnessed a significant change and attitudinal shift in both women's and society's thoughts about women's equality and emancipation. Many from a younger generation feel that all the battles have been won for women, while many feminists from the 1970s know only too well the longevity and ingrained complexity of the patriarchy, with more women in the back room, greater equality in legislative rights, and an increased critical mass of women's visibility as impressive role models in every aspect of life. One could think that women have gained true equality. The unfortunate fact is that women are still not paid equally to that of their male counterparts. Women still are not present in equal numbers in business or politics. And globally, women's education, health, and the violence against them is worse than that of men. However, great improvements have been made. We do have female astronauts and prime ministers. Schoolgirls are welcomed into university. Women can work and have a family. Women have a real choices. And so the tone and nature of IWD has, for the past few years, moved from being a reminder about the negatives to a celebration of the positives. Annually, on the 8th of March, thousands of events are held throughout the world to inspire women and celebrate achievements. A global web of rich and diverse local activity connects women from all around the world, ranging from political rallies, business conferences, government activities and networking events, through to local women's craft markets, theatric performances, fashion parades and more. Many global corporations have also started to more actively support IWD by running their own internal events and through supporting external ones. For example, on the 8th of March, search engine and media giant Google some years even changes its logo on its global search pages, which they do for most different events or celebrations. Year on year, IWD is certainly increasing in status. The United States even designates the whole month of March as Women's History Month. So make a difference, think globally and act locally. Make every day International Women's Day. Do your bit to ensure that we're in the new world order. Oh, sorry, got that bit wrong. Do your bit to ensure that the future for girls is bright, equal, safe and rewarding. About this internationalwomensday.com website. Internationalwomensday.com is a global hub for sharing International Women's Day information, events, news and resources. The website was founded in 2001. Well, basically it's just about the website, so ladies, if you would like to go and have a look at that, it is the internationalwomensday.com, all in lowercase with no spaces. So that's the last of my articles, but this bit here, think globally, yeah, and work locally. That is the new world order, no two ways about it. So that is me done with my articles, PJ.
Excellent, Paul. I'm not sure if you can hear me all right. I don't know if I've still got the...
Loud and clear now.
All right. I was told that while I was doing my piece I had some microphone issues there, so I'm not sure how that came across.
Yes, it did sound, I could barely make out what you were saying, I'm afraid, and I didn't want to burst into you while you was in flow.
It's all right. Just leave me for 15 minutes talking to myself.
Well, I was still listening because I was still trying to get the gist of it all, and as I said, when the charts come up, it come up on such a small picture I couldn't even make sense of the charts and the pie chart.
I will redo my piece for those that were interested. I'll rectify that.
Well, what I heard,
so Andy, thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
So, no problem. It's sorry, it's a bit late than never, I suppose. But I've had guess what, PJ, internet problems. But
I thought so, Andy. I've had the same. It's been a nightmare tonight for me, but we've got there partially.
Yeah, well, I never had any connection for 3 months, something like that. I don't know. But we got there in the end. But
we knew it's not normal for you to say you'll turn up and don't turn up, so we gathered you had some kind of technical issue going down there, stuff.
Yeah, it's getting worse actually. But we should hopefully remedy that in the not too distant future. I think a change of
Provider
will be in order, I think. So there we go.
Well, to bring you up to date stuff on my articles, I did bring in about Kinsey and the book he wrote about the sexual behaviour of the male, and then another book about the sexual behaviour of men and how he actually perverted what was the norm.
Okay, yeah.
And he was, I didn't actually say this earlier, but he was reported to be a paedophile. He was working with an SS officer in Germany, and SS officers in Germany, if they belong to the Navi, that's the occult side of it. So they're linked to the occult, paedophilia, bingo, it all ties up.
Yeah, I think you mentioned something about Sigmund Freud's nephew, wasn't it, Bernays?
Yes, Edward Bernays, yeah. That's how he knew how to manipulate people, and he regarded people as stupid.
Well, he was the main instigator of modern propaganda, really, was Bernays, wasn't he? He was.
And whenever you hear the words PR, basically, they call it public relations, but no, it is propaganda.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, I know he he was responsible for a lot of the so-called equality side of things with the female smoking. Do you remember the massive ad type propaganda he done with the females smoking cigarettes and all the rest of it? But I mean, if anybody wants a good lesson on that, there's plenty on the internet to get food up on it. But I should imagine you covered all that then, Paul. Yeah.
Well, as we're restricted time, I had to kind of skate on the surface, but I did bring it into what I had to say. But it is so involved. I mean, you could have a whole day just telling the information.
Yeah.
You know?
Have you got anything you'd like to share, Andy?
Perhaps a couple of little bits. I really, because I lost my internet, I really lost all sort of any.
Your articles are always interesting stuff, so
a bit off the cuff, because you're covering inequality, aren't you? Mostly, PJ.
Yes. If you want to share your screen, Andy, you're all good to go on my side.
Okay. Well, it's nothing new. Just.
Am I required to switch my screen sharing off?
Yeah, you can do now, Paul. Yeah.
How do I go about doing that? Being not a very savvy on the computer, how do I go about switching it off?
It's all right on my side, Paul. Don't worry. We'll sort it out.
Okay, great.
All right, Stav, over to you.
Okay. Well, I don't know. Can you see my screen?
Yep, got that.
Okay, well, just basically, this is just about, these graphs are just in Google search, really, nothing fantastic about it. This is just on images for basically inequality in the UK from the 70s to, well, I put 2014, but it's probably a little behind these graphs. And these are basically like this one here. You can pull any one of these up, and these are all supposedly independent.
Well, I've covered from 90s, and so if you're going back to 60s, 70s, and that's a great addition to mine, yeah.
Well, that covers power and that era, which I kind of really skated over.
Right, okay, well, I don't know what's happened there. That shouldn't have done that. What have we got here? Let me see if I can get these up a bit better. I mean, I don't know why that done that, but I thought it would have brought that image up a bit more. Come on. It's not going to do it again. It's kind of here again. Mind you, it might be down on this page. I don't know. Yeah, it is. Look. Okay, I think this article, what is it? Leaders must focus on fixing the inequality of labour income in the US, but I mean this applies to whoever anyway. This is a US graph, but I'll show you a couple of UK ones and European, Japanese. There's hundreds on there. Basically, what you've got here is a top 1% income share, and as you can see here, you've got the US, which is green. You've got Britain, which is this brown colour, which is there. Okay, that's the legend. And then you've got Germany, which is this grey colour. You've got France, which is this light green here, and you've got Sweden, which is this lighter brown type smudgy colour. I don't know, I'm a bit colourblind, but I think you get the gist of it. Well, basically, these are all the inequality figures, and these are the 1% compared how their equality, their incomes have gone up. They've all gone up, but mostly the American 1% and the British 1% there, amongst the others. The others are a bit more levelled off, but if you look here, these are the dates. That's 1930, 1920, 1930, 1940, 1950, 60, 70, 80, up to 2010 there. So it's a little bit behind. It's probably up around there somewhere now, but as a guess. But if you check here, there's a very important time here. If you look at 70.
Yeah, I was just saying, Andy, between 60s and 70s, and you just get into that now. So that's very interesting that you've come up with this chart. That's good stuff.
All of the rest of the charts are the same. They go at the same time on equality and top 1%, top 10%. Then it starts to level out after the top 10%. But anyway, we'll just go with this graph, and basically this period here between 1917 and 1980, that's a very, very critical period for all of this nonsense, and all of the nonsense you see today, as far as I'm concerned, is the ever widening gap between the very rich and the also rans, which seems to be affecting not only the poorest in the world's nations, but also, well, the Western world's nations, but also further up the scale, up to middle class, etc. What used to be called middle class. I mean, I don't buy the class business. It's rich and poor. It always has been. But there we go. Yeah. We can thank Maggie Thatcher for that class business. But anyway, moving on. Between 70 and 80, in 1971, there was a critical time. Something happened with the US, which is the world's currency. Everything's based on the US dollar. Has been since the Bretton Woods Agreement, and also even more so after Sheikh Yahmani done the deal with the petrodollar. You remember that, Paul, don't you?
Yeah, so, was that when we come off the gold standard? Well, that was 97.
Well, basically, I think it was France. It might have been somebody else said, look, this is a Ponzi scheme. With petrodollar, and we want our gold back, basically, they said to the States. So anyway, Nixon had to move fast, and that's when they went from the gold standard to the fiat system, which was 1971. Now, bear in mind, there's always a lot of cheap money then all of a sudden, so things need to get going, right? So there's plenty of cheap money about, mortgages, this sort of thing, that sort of thing, you know, and everybody... He had to do that because then really gold was valued not so much in the material gold, it became certificates, paper certificates of gold. I can't remember the correct term for it because I'm not a financial wheeler dealer. But they're paper certificates they deal in on the markets, it's not the actual intrinsic gold. So therefore...
What they called GLDs? Something
like that. And maybe somebody can leave a message after the video at the bottom, puts right on that if they're interested. But anyway, the whole top and bottom of it is, this is the critical period. This is when this is when it started to ramp up the fiat currency, because once they got over the little honeymoon period of 3 or 4 years where there was plenty of paper money, but it didn't matter, they could print. But once you start printing fiat currency, it can only devalue it. So the more you print something, the more there is, it will devalue. And this is the runaway train effect. And you'll find that most Western countries, well, most people that are tied to the dollar will follow suit. But see, the thing is, the debts go up, but this is a 1% share. They have gone up, and we've gone down the opposite way, because they can still access cheap money galore because of the interest rates being artificially held at 0%. And nobody in the street can get that. If they could get a loan or a mortgage today, which is a minor miracle, if they wanted it, I personally wouldn't advise it, because there's a lot of reasons for that. But there we are. And what it does is basically shows you that from 1971 to 1980, settling period, and then it takes off, because basically that's where we are, where they've had, it's all to do with the fiat monetary system, it's all to do with the control of it, and basically the rich will just carry on getting richer and richer and richer and richer, while the rest of us go to the whatever in a handcart, you know what I mean? So I don't have to
say. They introduced that exotic tool known as derivatives.
Yes, well, what is a derivative, Paul? In short, it's something of something. It's not a whole, is it? It's part of.
Yeah, exactly. And it's more than likely been hypothecated, which means sold over and over and over again.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, if this world can't this world cannot survive without insurance or assurance or whatever you want to call it. Everything is insured, basically. So, you know, they never lose out. If something goes down, if they buy into something and shares, they also buy in an insurance for it. So it goes down the pan. Your money and shares go down the pan. They collect their insurance. They've sold it on. Blah blah blah. And also, short selling is criminal. What they've done in short selling is unbelievable. If you understand the system a bit, I'm not a expert in it, but I kind of understand short selling and how it works, and it's, yeah, all of this nasty stuff, and it's all fraudulent because it's all insider dealing, because they manipulate it, they cause the, you know, borrow shares off somebody for X amount and then put them on the market, buy it back themselves, make a profit and give the shares back, and they're doing that all the time. You know, it's ridiculous. But anyway, that's that 1%. I can pull up, let me go back, I can pull up any of these, if you like, that will say all the same bloody things, that, you know, it's getting ridiculous. It's just, well, that's not this one here. This is quite an important one. This is productivity and average real earnings. This is major sector productivity. Well, the major sector productivity is money. Finance. You know, that's what that is. Now here, real wages of goods producing workers. These are people who make things, which are very far and few between now, as we know. In the Western countries, most of it's made in China. But look, it's a flat line. It's, you know, not even China really can get rich off of its own wealth, because it's only the financial sector that's going to get higher and higher, where, you know, this split, look, 1975, 71, remember, is about here. Fiat currency. Look, it's, you know, you could, is that a coincidence, guys? Anyway, I can pull any one of these up. There's hundreds and hundreds of them. So anything to say on that one? I'll just give you this one little article there, and that's about it. But anything to say on that, PJ?
Not much more than what you've said. I mean, that's the chart to the article that you're going to be bringing in now, which is the workhouse, I do believe.
That's right. Yes. Well, this is you know, this will be the effects of inequality, where the bottom people, not the financial 1% and all the rest of them, all of the criminals, as I put it. You know, this is an article that these guys brought this up last November, right? Warning about this particular building and what the council was going to allow the charity to do with it. And now it's actually come true, because you know, the deal has actually been signed, so it's going ahead. And this is workhouse deal is signed between council and charity. It's only a small article, so I might as well just read it out, and then you'll get the gist of it. This is a former bus depot, workhouse in Blackburn, which seems set to become workhouse for 10 inmates. Doesn't sound a lot, but these things catch on quick. And they put these little pilots out to make you get used. Oh yes, that's very good, and wallop. So yes, you read the headline correctly, as originally reported on this blog in November last year. A former bus depot in Blackburn seems set to become the first new workhouse the UK has seen since before the Second World War. Amazingly, Labour-controlled Blackburn, with Darwin Council, has approved in principle the sale and conversion of the Transdev Lancashire United Garage in Manor Sutton Street in Innan, on the edge of Blackburn town. A charity called itself Recycling Lives will run the site as a recycling centre for metal, scrap cars, tyres, plastics, televisions and redundant household items. The claim is that the money raised from selling these items would provide the homeless and others in the margins of society with training, education, work and experience and employment. The dictionary definition of workhouse is a place where those unable to support themselves were offered accommodation and employment. Doesn't that description fit the proposed new use of the Blackburn bus depot? Maybe. Several questions arise. Firstly, what kind of training and education will it be any good to the people getting it? We can work out for ourselves the kind of work experience and employment it would provide, but this leads to another question. What kind of remuneration would the otherwise homeless inmates of this workhouse receive? If it's just bed and board, then we're looking at a very cynical plan to exploit some of the most vulnerable people in British society.
It sounds like indentured servitude to me.
This writer hopes to see evidence that the Blackburn workhouse will be paying the living wage, the real version, not the Conservative government's fake, from which only the cost of a room for the night, a cheap room, is removed, alongside useful education and training. Anybody living and working there might actually get a chance to rebuild their lives. I expect to be disappointed. So, you know, I mean, you take it for what it is. I mean, I think this is, and there's a little thing here. Where does it say?
This is the thin end of the wedge. It really is, because Ian Duncan Smith, it was only last week he actually announced that that the recycling pays is like the slave master of the plantation hiring his slave out to any other company, but the company paying the slave master and not the worker.
Oh yes, oh yes. Yeah, that's right. Well, I mean, there's actually, Paul, there's a little clue here. Now, a lot of people say, well, I'm not homeless. Ain't going to affect me. It's only going to affect the homeless, this, you know, and it's going to give them a roof over their head. Well, the dictionary...
But a lot of people don't realise there are only 3 wage packets from being homeless.
Yeah, well, it says here, a dictionary definition of work is a place where those unable to support themselves with accommodation. Where is it? No, that's not it.
No, but that bit you've just read is voluntary servitude.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah, yes, but Ian Duncan Smith said if people are not prepared to work with them, there will be sanctions. So it's not voluntary, it's enforced. It's enforced with threats.
Definitely, yeah. I'm actually trying to say it because I'm sure. Oh, there we go. The claim is that the money raised from selling these items would provide the homeless and others on the margins of society, on the margins of society. What do you think that means?
Yeah, well, isn't it funny how our government keeps making that margin wider and wider?
Yeah. Will this mean unemployed people, people on benefits?
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, there you go. So it's not just for the homeless, and this is just well, it's not a pilot. I guess it is, because in a way, it's only 10 people.
It's the tip of the iceberg that's to come. The main bulk of it's bloody well underwater, excuse my language, but it's underwater, and it's being hidden from the truth of what's going to happen with this.
Yes, definitely. Well, we were talking about inequality. Well, I don't think it comes any more unequal than, you know, the very rich, like in the early Victorian days, and the workhouse people.
Yeah, it is financial apartheid. It depends which side of the wall you're on, to whether you're in the poor or the ultra rich, and that's all there is now, because they are removing the middle class.
Well, it gets more than that, because they're using terms like extreme poverty. Like, poverty is not bad enough. We're only going to be really focused on extreme poverty. You know, are they going to start saying, oh, we're only going to deal with extreme poor?
Yeah. Well, that says what exactly they've got planned, does it not?
It does indeed. So I mean, make of that what you like, guys. It looks to me like it's full steam ahead with. I think I've got rid of our shared, haven't I, PJ?
Yeah, you have there.
It looks to me like that's where it's headed, and I think if anybody wants to see the future of so-called benefits, well, there's your benefit. You get to work in a workhouse.
Yeah, and if you don't work with Ian Duncan Smith, sanctions will be applied.
Yeah. Well, maybe. Well, you see, they'll probably put it in such a way, like, you know, that it's charity, man. It's not a sanction. It's we're doing you a favour because, you know.
Yeah, but back in 2009, when they started making charities political charities, it was obvious what was going to happen there.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. But it's been, yeah. Well, you know, they call it a race to the bottom with all this currency wars and whatever and that sort of thing. But I feel that, I mean, hopefully I'll be able to cover with an article about climate change or something along those lines. That they know full well that this cannot carry on with the fiat currency. All fiat currencies do come to a slippery end. They all do. Everyone has failed.
Well, really, it should have come to an end years ago. They've only been popping it up with the quantitative easing, which is the printing of phony money.
Well, yes, Paul, and I think they know that they can only do that because if they stop printing money, as they put it, or quantitative easing, I don't know what the real word is. I need my teeth in for that one, but you know, if they stop that, then the whole financial market will collapse.
Yeah.
It's the only thing that keeps the financial market going. So they can't get off this train. They can't get off. They can't stop the train crash because.
Do you mind if I slightly correct you there, Staff?
Yeah, go on.
The manipulated financial market.
Manipulated, but then all fiat currencies are manipulated anyway.
Yeah, but I'm putting it over for the listeners.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Well, you can't. It's a Keynesian Ponzi scheme on acid, you know, and it's way out of control. They can't stop it. The only thing I think that can, I think they're waiting for something different to happen. Save their arse. Excuse my language.
Yeah, but they're totally ignoring the Bradbury pound, which has the ability to do that, which is the silver bullet, to be quite honest.
Well, listen, I mean, people have done it throughout history. They, you know, printed their own state interest-free money. I mean, Lincoln, everybody knows about the greenback. Even Adolf Hitler done it.
And what happened to them?
Well, exactly. I mean, and the proposed fiat currency by JFK. So
Yeah.
we know where, who, and why the international bank have done what they've done.
Well, all the indicators pointing the fingers, and you only got to look at the indicators to know who's responsible.
Yeah, well, I've got this theory anyway. I mean, there's millions, and yeah, Stav's got another one of the million theories, but I think they know something. I think they know that something globally is going to happen somewhere down the line that's going to sort this out in a way not very nice for us, I'm afraid, but okay for them, and that's a global. A global catastrophe, right, that renders a lot of the northern hemispheres, Western economies, rubbish and writes them off. In actual fact, their economies won't be able to run. Something's going to happen where in the northern hemisphere, especially in the northern hemisphere, like east coast of America, Canada, the UK, perhaps even some parts of most of Northern Europe, where the economies will come to a grinding halt because the logistics that keep the economies going, like road transport, road structures, all this sort of thing, will not be able to cope with what's going to happen. But like I say, and I think that in a way will snuff out a lot of the problems because there won't be an economy in a lot of these countries to save.
No, basically, it's like giving a diabetic shots of blinking sugar.
Yes. Yes. That's it. Well, I mean, I'll tell you a bit more later on with an article that I'm going to do where I kind of link these things a bit more. But that's how I feel things may possibly go. But
Yeah, things are so much out of whack now. It's like trying to shuffle tea bags.
Anyway, that's about it from me. Sorry that I've rattled on to probably a bit too much.
No, that was really interesting and really enlightening.
Yeah. Well made up for your later arrival, this stuff.
Oh, well, thanks for that, but it's just something I pulled up when I got back online. And...
Well, it was nice to have you in, stuff.
Oh, it's nice to be here, guys. I'm sorry I missed the early bits and pieces, but, you know.
Oh, you only missed my muffling. You didn't miss much. Right, to wrap this one up for tonight, guys, Stav, are you able to tell the people the lineup for the shows coming in the week, starting from tomorrow with Reese and then yourself?
Yeah, we've got Reese, haven't we, tomorrow, and he's going to tell us all about the lovely Fabian Society, I believe.
Oh, lovely. Shape everything.
I'm going to do an article on, well, it won't be in depth, but hopefully I can add some bits and pieces to it. It's about global cooling, really. I don't like to use global cooling because it can be part of, you know, mainstream. But basically, yeah, it's something that's happened for many years, centuries, and it's cyclical, and it comes around at certain times, and we're just about ready to. We're just coming up to entering it. So anyway, I'll tell you more about that.
When are you putting that one out, Stav?
Well, we'll put it out Tuesday, but it's not as in depth as I wanted it to be. But I'm hoping to add to it as I go. It's just basically it's a little bit about the BS anthropogenic global warming.
By blood and gore.
Yeah. And well, actually, Mrs. Thatcher was, I think, involved with the beginnings. But it's actually, I think it goes back to even.
Oh, long time.
But anyway, hopefully you'll get a little bit of information from the article that I do on it, and I'm hoping to build on it as we go. But it'll be just a quick. Basically, there's a chap I've been following, and he's been pretty spot on. He's an astro Bob Marley fan, an astro meteorologist, and it's very interesting, you know. I mean, because mainstream is just really about on the Earth what affects it. But anyway,
is he a cosmole?
Eh?
A cosmole.
Yeah, in between. That sounds good to me anyway. Either way.
What's a cosmole?
No idea, I just made it up. Okay guys, that's all we've got for tonight, so do join us on Sunday for another episode of Flux News. Until then, do join us tomorrow. We'll join Reese Soaks tomorrow with his programme, and then Stav on Tuesday. Any final thoughts?
No, that's about it. Cheers.
Alright, Stav, Paul, thanks for joining.
Thank you very much for having me.
No worries. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.